Hi, thanks for stopping by our channel today. I'm Pete, and today we're going to be working on the old International. We're going to be replacing some spots in the floor that are rusted. I got the seat back from the upholsterer finally, and it turned out great. But before we get the seat put in, we're going to have to fix some rust and do a few other things to the back of the cab. We're also going to be doing some welding on the tractor hood. Since we got the welder out, there's some holes that were drilled in the front sheet metal of the tractor, not necessarily the hood, but the front nose sheet metal. So we're going to get that welded up. And then we're going to do kind of a quick walk around in the vegetable garden to see how everything is growing and kind of check in on our apricots and stuff like that. So that's what we're doing today. So let's get started. So right here in our cab, this is the back door jamb and the bottom door jamb on the passenger side. So we had a piece that was pretty well rusted out. And so I've got that cut out. And I made a new piece that's going to go in here. It's going to sit just like that, and that's going to replace that. We're also going to need to fix this. I don't know if you can see, but it's pretty it's pretty toasty right there. So we're going to make a new piece to go here too. The guy that I got this cab from, it laid on its back for 30 years. And that's kind of why the back of the cab's kind of messed up. But because of that, this direction was aimed down. And so between the door and this, there was just a whole bunch of, leaves and branches and just stuff they got in there and just rusted this out. The good thing about this is that all the floors up here are really solid. So they're not rusted out at all, which we kind of got lucky there. So it's a trade-off. The floor is good, but the back of the cab's not in very good shape. But, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? All right, so let's get this held in. I've got some magnets, and I'm gonna hold this in, and then we'll get this welded up. All right, so we've got our piece held in with two magnets, and to get some initial tacks, I'm gonna put my hand up underneath and just hold this in place. I'll get the corners nailed down, and then we'll go back in and fill everything. Need to get our wire speed right here. A little too much wire speed. There we go. Still a little too high on the wire speed. Let's turn that down. There we go. That sounds a little better. There we go. Take our magnets off. There we go. And when you're welding in old metal, I've ground this off. You know, the new piece I've got cleaned up pretty well, but the old piece, you know, you clean it up as best you can without eliminating too much of the thickness of the metal. But because of that, sometimes when you're welding, it just doesn't weld very good. All right. So we got it tacked in pretty good. I'll go ahead and finish welding this, and then with the soft wheel grinder, we'll get this cleaned up, and then we'll get a look at that, and then we'll make a piece for this one. All right, so I got this piece welded in, and I got it ground down. Now down here in this little corner here, I can't quite get to the welds, so I'm going to have to get in there with a file and kind of clean that up. So I have two of these flap discs. This one you can see is a lot wider, but super heavy duty, and this one is pretty thin. So for doing most of the work, I use the thick one, but for little crevices like this, tight spots, you can get in there with this quite a bit more, but that still left this. So I'm just going to have to clean that up with a file. Now, obviously, if I was doing body work, you know, replacing a quarter panel or, you know, a big panel on a car, you'd want this to be perfectly smooth. When you grind it, it'll look perfect. There won't be any deformity at all. This, on the other hand, is not something you're ever going to see. Once this is all fixed, I don't know if you can see it here, but I've got the Dynamat on the whole front half of this. So once this is all fixed and all the rust spots are fixed and the scale is removed, this gets covered in Dynamat. So if there's a little bit of unevenness right there, it's not going to hurt anything because that's all going to be under you know, Dynamat. So I'm going to cut this piece out now. There we go. And you can see how rusted out that little piece was. That's the bottom side. So now we'll put this on the new steel that we have, and I'll trace it out with the Sharpie pen and make a piece that fits in there just perfect. Don't worry about these overcuts here, because once we start welding, we're going to weld all that up. So, and you'll never see that again. We just want to make sure that we fill anything, because we don't want any moisture coming up from underneath and getting into here and start rusting. Now, once the bottom of the cab is all fixed, we're going to seal it with a rubberized undercoating. So we shouldn't get any moisture in there, but we just want to make sure that everything is sealed off and there's no way that moisture can get through. So I've got our new little piece made. This is the one that's all rusted out, and this is our new one. I bent the contours to match. So it's more contoured on this end than on this end. This end, it's still contoured, but not much. But on this end, it's contoured a whole lot more. So let's get our magnets set up again. Hopefully we can, there we go. Get this set up right there. All right, so let's get this tacked in. There you go. My auto dimming helmet is not working. All of a sudden it's dim all the time. There we go. Here we go. I just filled in that slice that we took. All right. There we go. And there we go. All right, so now I'll, just like I did on this one, I'm going to fill in the weld all the way around. Sometimes when you're welding, you chase holes. There we go. All right. So now what I'll do is I'll just finish weld this all the way around. So we have both of our pieces made. We've got this one, and the angle, I mean this bevel, this roll, whatever you want to call it, comes down and then tapers out where it's pretty much smooth here. Do a little more cleanup there, but you know, this metal is kind of rust marked. You know, it's kind of pitted from the rust that was here. So it's not going to be perfect, but I went all over it, you know, with a screwdriver trying to find all the weak points, and I think we got it all. So this one, and this one are good. The rest of the floor where the seat sets is pretty solid. I don't see any other rust through there. We have a little bit of rust back here in this corner to fix, and then around in the back side of this. So, but that's going to be kind of hard to film. So I might take a picture of it and enter it in once we get it all done. But this is what we're going to do just to fix all the rust spots in the floor. And then on the other side, once we're all done, we'll get underneath with the soft wheel grinder and just kind of clean everything up. So once we're all done here, we're going to work on the front sheet metal for the tractor. There's some holes that were drilled. And so we're going to fill those in just because we have the welder out. So, all right, so now that we got that done, I cut that inside corner off, and that's how rusted that is. So where that goes is right in here. So there are several spot welds along here that I had to work off, but I just cut up here, leaving enough ham that I can weld to that, and then all the way around there. Now down inside there was some old seam sealer that had dried out, that had come off. But the biggest problem that I found in here, if you remember, this truck sat for 30 to 35 years on its back. And anybody that lives in rural areas know that anything that sits for a long time becomes the house of mouse. No, not that one. This one. This whole thing was full of branches and leaves, and there was a big mouse house in here. There was a mouse condo. So once I got this off, I had a long bar to get up in here to get all of it out. And I'm pretty confident it's all gone now. Anyway, that's the joys of restoring old vehicles that sit on farms for a long time. So since we have the welder out, I'm going to do a little bit of work on the tractor, the front cowling, the front body work. I think on these tractors, I think the grill and all these pieces are separate, but on this particular tractor, somebody has welded them all together. So it looks like this piece here still has bolts, but it's pretty solid, so we don't really have to take it apart. I'm just commenting that this is all welded together. Now, when I first got this whole nose area back in the backside here was full of mud dauber mud, and it was probably 5 or 6 inches deep. So they'd been living high on the hog in this tractor, but so we dug all that out. Fortunately, it didn't get wet, so it didn't rust anything. But what we're going to do here is there are some holes here that I think somebody put a latch on, like a hasp to lock, put a lock on. So I'm just going to fill these holes, this one here and the screw hole and this little square hole. I think those are original. And then these two here on the side is where they bolted the muffler. The exhaust came up and the muffler went up here, but it had all failed, and so this was twisted. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of straighten out that bodywork there. Got a dolly and hammer. There we go. All right. Now, one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to weld these up, but I need to clean up this surface because this is all rusted. But then also down inside the hole, that's kind of rusty too. So I'm just going to take this rat tail file and clean up the holes. So I'm just going to turn. I just want to knock off any kind of rust that's in there. Weld doesn't stick to rust too well. All right. And there we go. The rest of it, I don't see any other holes drilled in it, so I'm pretty sure that's all we're going to need to weld up. The next thing I want to do before we weld this up is remove the headlights. We have brand new headlights for it. There we go. There we go. I'll probably, this one is all complete. I don't know if it works, but I'll put a new bulb in it. And I'll probably reuse this on the back of the tractor. We're going to weld up these 4 holes and these 2 holes. So we got this pretty well flat. We'll probably do some body work on all of this once it's all straightened up and cleaned. I think there's a couple little dents here and there all over this body that are going to need to be fixed. It's going to be a working tractor, so we're not going to make it perfect, but I want it to start out as nice as possible right off the bat. One thing about welding on these old tractors and old trucks, this is real metal. You know, working on these newer cars, the sheet metal's so thin that you end up just chasing the holes around. And there we go. Let's get our safety glasses on. Like I said, once we start doing we're going to have to blast all of this or sand it, or, I don't know what it's going to take to get down to a good surface here. Some of these panels won't be too bad, but this probably have to go down to metal on both sides, the tops. And then we'll get it all primed and sanded and get the dents knocked out of it. But that's all a different day. Since I had the welder out, I just wanted to get this done. Yeah, that looks pretty good. A lot better than a bunch of random holes. All right, so I think that's going to be it in the garage today. We're going to go and do a walk around in the garden just to see an update. I know that some of you have been following the garden to see how things are growing, so I want to do a quick update on that. So I'm going to get cleaned up here and I'll meet you in the garden. So we'll just do a quick walk around in the garden. So this is new. We got this off of Amazon. It's our herb garden. So we have our green onions up here. These over here, we've had those for 2 years, I think. And these we just bought recently. So they're just store-bought green onions, and we just keep growing them. Other than this batch, we haven't bought green onions in 2 years. Then we've got cilantro, we've got oregano, we've got chamomile. This one's not doing so well, but that's dill. This is basil, and this is mint. And then we also have some red onions that are growing. And then for the rest of the garden, we have our raspberries. And then we've got our russet or Idaho potatoes. And these are store-bought, and they are doing well. These are even starting to grow. All of these white things are from our orange tree that's right above it that is flowering like crazy. And then this potato plant is just going to town. He's going huge, so we're hoping for big things out of him. And then our red seed potatoes are all doing pretty well. And then our other raspberry. Everything out here is going to town. Our green beans are all flourishing, except for that little guy. Not sure what's going on with him, but all the rest of them are doing really well. We've got one, two, three, four Roma tomatoes, and then these two, this one and this one, we've planted since doing our last video. Those are from a friend who has a huge garden, and they are, try to hold this steady, there you go, Berkeley tie-dye tomatoes. They're supposed to be very, very flavorful tomatoes. I've never had them before, never even heard about them, but hopefully those will be doing good. All of these, this one, 2, 3, 4, and 5, these are all cucumbers. These are 2 crookneck squash, and we have a little teeny squash growing already. And then 1, 2, 3, those big plants are our zucchinis. We've got our 2 strawberries. This one is about 3 years old. This one, over the winter, we had kind of a cold winter, and the plant that was in there froze. So this is a brand new plant. So you can see on this one, we're already starting to develop some strawberries. So everything's looking pretty good here. our apricots. This is our baby tree, we call it. And it has, you can see kind of how big these are. And then all back here, you can see it is just going to town on all of, I think I counted them the other day, and we have like 75 or 78 on this tree. And then this tree is, I think it's about 6 years old, and they're much bigger. See if I can get my hand under here so you can see the size. But these are going already. So they're getting pretty big. So this tree is always, we've harvested in June. So this one seems to be a little bit ahead of schedule. And I think I counted, this one's a little harder to count, but I think we counted about 60 on this tree. I didn't bring my tripod out here, so I'm trying to hold this. Sorry if it's shaking. So anyway, I just wanted to do a quick walk around. We got cleaned up down in the shop, and I got cleaned up in the house before coming out here. But yeah, it was grinding and welding, especially dealing with all that rust and everything. It was a really dirty, dirty project. So I'm glad we got it all done in one day. We still have to make that one piece for the corner on the inside of the cab, but I don't have the piece of metal that I had wasn't big enough. I'd been trimming a lot of pieces out of it, and it was just kind of down to a small piece. So I've got to run over to the metal shop and get another sheet of metal so I can make that piece. We'll put it in the slip roll and roll it, and then put it in the brake and put a little brake on the end. But when that is ready to go, I'll add that to the next video. Even if I just do that in the next day or so, I'll just add that on to our next video. So anyway, I appreciate you stopping by. If this helped you or inspired you on your truck or your tractor, or even working in your vegetable garden, you can do a lot by yourself if you just put your mind to it. And especially with gardening, growing your own food is really fulfilling because you know exactly what's in it and what isn't in it. So if this helped you, give me a thumbs up, and I really appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel. I know we're not breaking any world records here, but it's a good neighborhood for us all to be in, and the more people that get together and share their experiences, the better. I appreciate you coming by, and we'll catch you on the next one.